Henshaw here again, Constitutional Crisis Channel. And my subject matter for today is one that I have great interest in. I haven't done a lot with it to date, but it's the issues that arise here with mortgage banksters are exactly the same as arise in traffic courts. It doesn't seem like it at first blush, but trust me, it is. Now, that said, I got a friend of mine that alerted me to a case he has with a friend of his in North Carolina, and they just had a complaint filed against this person for not having paid allegedly due taxes, and it's a 5-pager, and it goes on, and it says this, that, and the other, and my gosh, you break this thing down, and the issues that arise here, and this is where we can get over on them, and the same thing is true in the traffic court. It may be more true with mortgage banksters, because those corporate attorneys are at least aware of many of the issues that I advocate, the unopposed issues, and we can make them come to their senses, because if we get a win on the record in a single case, one, it's going to negate every mortgage from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. That's how serious this stuff is. Because you look at it, and number one, the agreement that they coerce you into, what do? They make a electronic entry to your bank account in most cases. They may, on rare occasions, even give you a check, but electronic entry of funds, that who the hell knows where that comes from. It isn't even fiat currency known as Federal Reserve notes. But that's what they do, and they expect you to pay the bastards back for the next 30 years, by the sweat of your brow, by the use of your property in the form of your time and labor. So clearly, the word dollar does not mean the same thing on both sides of the equation. On your side, you have your property. On their side, they got nothing. So at common law, this would be an easy winner, because if there's no consideration, which is what gold and silver coin is known as consideration, there's no common law contract, and it can't be enforced. If we had our common law states and judicial courts, this is a dead bang winner without even going any further, and I go a hell of a lot further than this. But therefore, no common law, and we have a right to common law no matter what they tell you. Even if they're going to claim you made a voluntary, knowing, and intelligent agreement in the contract, no, you didn't. Couldn't possibly be so, because they don't teach us a damn thing in their mandatory public schools these days. If they did that, they might have a point. And I'm going to make a quick digression here, which I shouldn't do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Back to a case called, got to think about this a minute, Bank of Columbia v. Oakley, O-K-E-L-Y, 4 Wheaton 235, that's 17 U.S. 235. And this crazy idiot Oakley made an agreement with the Bank of Columbia in Maryland, and they went to foreclose on his farm because he didn't follow through on his end of the agreement. Now, this is 1819 this happens, okay? 1819, vintage case. And he's stupid enough to think at the time he actually has a right to trial by jury. So he goes into the trial court and makes this argument. He wins. Goes to the Circuit Court of Appeals. He wins. Goes to the 9-0 farts. He loses. They say not so fast, as the famous football commentator would say these days. And they said when you entered into this agreement, you made a voluntary and knowing stipulation to use, their money, and it therefore waived, in effect, whatever right you might have had to a trial by jury. You did it on your own. Therefore, you became a hypothecator of goods and stipulator in the admiralty. Now, as big a deal as that was at the time, it's much more so now in our time period. I'll get to that. But the point I want to make here is in 1819, the justices could maybe make an argument like that with a straight face and let themselves lie down and sleep gently at night, because in that time frame, people that went to school and had education were actually taught a hell of a lot more about the Constitution than we are today. You could make that argument. I get that. They didn't say this in the opinion, but you could at least understand that at that time. Nowadays, when we get nothing, and we have attorneys, for the most part, who don't even know what the hell the law is, and I'm going to refer you again to the YouTube video on Matthew Peterson. and or who will not make these arguments. Either they don't know them, or worse, they actively conceal them from you. There's no voluntary, knowing, and intelligent waiver of rights here. So the contract is null and void ab initio, which is from day one. Even worse, if what they said in Oakley is true, and by doing this and signing on and taking something other than gold and silver, you become a hypothecator of goods and stipulator in the Admiralty. And yet these corporate bastard banksters want to go into a state court and take your property from you. Can't do it because state courts are constitutionally forbidden to exercise Admiralty jurisdiction. Article 3, Section 2. So when these corporate banksters go into a state court, where the hell are they really? That makes my state versus territory, Article 4, Section 3. They cannot possibly be in a state judicial court. They're in, at best, a territorial legislative tribunal. And this is an open challenge to any of my listeners out there. If you can find anywhere in the Constitution where Congress has authority to relegate states admitted into this union to any lesser political status, you let me know it. And any of the products I have that go on sale, my document packets or whatever, this is a freebie for you if you can produce this kind of information. And you're not going to be able to do it. As it is, by the way, I am now offering a triple your money refund on the acquisition of both of my packages. You can prove me wrong on issues like this. Triple your money back. Check it out. Get to me at my email, ccaspari@live.com, and let me know. I'll send you information on this stuff. You're absolutely going to love it because it's good across the board. Yes, it's primarily for me been traffic courts up to now, not including my South Carolina felony case where I blew the bastards out alone from a jail cell with the help from my good friend of 20-odd years. We did an amazing job on that. And I walked out there, and they were happy to see me go. The public pretenders more than anybody, because now the bastard had to do the job, because I was helping out all the other people in jail and saying, here's what you do. I wrote it out for them, and they were not happy with me. Anyway, I'm a little off track here with that. But the point with all this is the mortgage banksters have so many problems with the contracts that they're flat out unenforceable if you have the right status, you raise the right issues, and get yourself into a judicial court. Now, the good news here is we have so much leverage here. And I have a mortgage case upcoming, a local one here, that I'll report back to you. Next talk show is May 24th. I might not have a lot to say about it at that time, but I will shortly thereafter, because I think we can back these bastards down and get them to give ground and go away and do what it is we want them to do. Because one decision on the record, one of them, is a staggering loss. That's the leverage that we have. One case, the way our system works, or doesn't work, depending on your point of view. One case gets on the record, that's a binding precedent, especially if it's by the 904th. That's where we get them. And if they're going to do their job there in Washington, D.C., to say what the law is, and we demand that they do it, we have every right to do that, and they have every constitutional obligation to do it. They took a sworn oath, to be bound by this Constitution and the laws enacted in pursuance thereof. We have to make them stick to it. Once we do that, the situation gets a whole hell of a lot better. That's the ultimate goal of my work. Whether I see this and get across the Red Sea at this point, I don't know. But that's what I work hours and hours every day to do. And let me tell you, I worked hell of a lot harder as a retiree for the last 11 years than I ever did when I was in the workforce. But I love what I do. I hope it shows, by the way. You get the passion, you get the energy, and you understand that we're right about these issues. You get my documents and start putting them in there, even into their courts for the moment. They're going to run the other way. They're not going to know what to do. Exactly where we want the bastards to be. Thank you.